The information provided in this video regarding B2B lead nurturing and email marketing strategies is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. This content does not constitute professional marketing, legal, or financial advice. Business outcomes and conversion rates are subject to a wide range of variables, including market conditions, industry-specific nuances, and individual execution. The viewer is advised to conduct their own due diligence and consult with qualified professionals before implementing any business strategies or investing capital into marketing campaigns. 97% of the people who visit your website today will never buy from you. In the world of high-ticket B2B sales, the vast majority of your hard-earned traffic is essentially window shopping, and most companies are responding by effectively setting their marketing budget on fire. We have seen a historical trend where sales teams obsess over the 3% of leads who are ready to buy right now, while completely ignoring the 97% who are in the research phase. This is the silent killer of B2B growth. You are likely generating leads, paying for clicks, and capturing emails, only to watch those prospects vanish into a black hole of silence because your follow-up strategy is non-existent, or, even worse, it is annoying. If your primary method of lead nurturing is sending a generic just checking an email once a week, you are not nurturing, you are spamming. You are participating in what we call the burn and churn cycle, where you exhaust your market's patience and destroy your brand's reputation before the prospect even has a chance to see your value. Today we are ending that. We are moving away from the desperate, by now energy that drives prospects away, and moving toward a sophisticated, data-driven lead nurturing machine. This video is a deep dive masterclass into the architecture of B2B lead nurturing through email. By the time we finish this 10-part series, you will understand how to transform a cold, skeptical prospect into a long-term, high-value client using nothing but strategically timed sequences and high-value psychological triggers. We are going to solve the problem of the leaky bucket funnel. We are going to address why your open rates are plummeting and why your click-through rates feel like they are stuck in the basement. Most importantly, we are going to look at the historical data that shows why a structured nurture sequence can potentially increase sales opportunities by more than 50% while decreasing the cost per lead significantly. This is about building an automated system that does the heavy lifting for your sales team, so when a prospect finally does hop on a call, they aren't asking, "Who are you?" They are asking, "How soon can we start?" To understand why lead nurturing is the single most important lever in your B2B engine, we have to look at the evolution of the B2B buyer. Historically, the salesperson held all the power. If a prospect wanted information, they had to call a representative. Today, the power has shifted entirely. Research from major firms like Gartner and Forrester indicates that the modern B2B buyer is often 70 to 80% of the way through their journey before they ever reach out to a sales department. They are researching in the shadows. They are reading your white papers, watching your videos, and comparing you to your competitors without you even knowing they exist. If your only call to action is book a demo, you are forcing them to skip the research phase, which is exactly why they are ghosting you. Let's look at a case study of a mid-sized SaaS company specializing in enterprise logistics. They were spending $30,000 a month on LinkedIn ads, driving traffic to a high-intent demo page. Their conversion rate was less than 1%. They were capturing names and emails, but 99% of that traffic was bouncing. When they shifted their strategy to offer a logistics efficiency calculator, a middle-of-the-funnel lead magnet, and followed it up with a 15-step email nurture sequence, their qualified lead volume increased by 400% over 6 months. They didn't increase their ad spend. They simply stopped ignoring the people who weren't ready to buy on day one. They recognized that the B2B sales cycle is a marathon, not a sprint, and they built a system to run that marathon alongside the prospect. The fundamental flaw in most B2B email strategies is a lack of empathy for the prospect's cognitive load. Your prospects are executives, managers, and directors who are inundated with hundreds of emails every single day. If your email looks like a sales pitch, it is deleted in less than a second. To succeed, we must move toward value-first nurturing. This involves a step-by-step psychological escalation. Think of it like a relationship. You wouldn't ask someone to marry you within 5 seconds of meeting them at a coffee shop. Yet, in B2B marketing, we constantly ask prospects for a 30-minute discovery call, the professional equivalent of a marriage proposal, before we have even proven we can solve a minor problem for them. In this masterclass, we will break down the rule of 7, which has historically suggested that a prospect needs at least 7 touches before they internalize your brand. However, in the modern, noisy digital landscape, data suggests that number has likely doubled or even tripled. You need more touches, but those touches cannot be repetitive. They must be additive. Every email in your sequence must answer a specific question, alleviate a specific fear, or provide a specific tool that makes your prospect's life easier. We will explore the technical infrastructure required for this level of precision. We aren't just talking about writing good copy. We are talking about behavioral triggers. If a prospect clicks a link about data security in your third email, your system should automatically pivot the next 4 emails to focus on security protocols, compliance, and risk mitigation. This is the difference between a blast and a nurture. One is a megaphone, the other is a conversation. We will look at how to segment your list based on intent signals, ensuring that your messaging is so relevant it feels like you are reading the prospect's mind. Furthermore, we must address the valley of death in the B2B funnel. This is the period after a lead downloads a resource, but before they are ready for a sales call. This is where most leads die of neglect. We will detail how to bridge this gap using case studies that highlight specific ROI metrics from previous market cycles. For instance, we will examine how a manufacturing firm used a problem agitation solution framework in their emails to remind prospects of the cost of inaction. By quantifying the losses a company faces by staying with their current inefficient process, they were able to move stagnant leads into the active sales pipeline. The potential outcomes for a company that masters this are profound. You move from a position of chasing leads to a position of attracting them. You create a content moat around your business that makes it incredibly difficult for competitors to steal your prospects' attention. Over the next sections of this series, we are going to dive into the exact scripts, the timing intervals, and the technical setups that make this possible. We will look at the psychology of subject lines, the science of the PS line, and how to use micro-yes to lead a prospect down a path where the final purchase feels like the only logical conclusion. We are also going to debunk the myths of ideal send times and focus instead on contextual relevance. The historical trend of sending emails at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday is becoming less relevant than sending an email 3 minutes after a prospect visits your pricing page for the 3rd time. This is about real-time responsiveness and building a brand that feels human, even when it is automated. Prepare yourself for a complete shift in how you view your email list. It is not a database of names. It is a pipeline of future revenue that requires consistent, high-quality care. By the end of this journey, you will have the blueprint to build a B2B lead nurturing engine that operates with surgical precision, turning the chaos of digital marketing into a predictable, scalable process for growth. We are starting with the foundation of the sequence architecture, looking at the initial welcome and indoctrination phase, which sets the tone for every interaction that follows. If you get this first step wrong, the rest of the 97% will stay gone forever. If you get it right, you've just unlocked the most powerful growth lever in your arsenal. The indoctrination phase is where you either cement your authority or become another ignored notification on a lock screen. Imagine if you are Michael, the Chief Technology Officer of a growing fintech firm in Austin, Texas. It is early 2026, and Michael is grappling with the new federal regulations on data privacy that just went into effect. He is stressed, he is short on time, and he is looking for a solution that does not require him to hire 5 new consultants. He lands on your site because you offered a specialized 2026 compliance checklist. He enters his professional email, clicks submit, and waits. In this exact moment, the clock starts ticking. Historical trends in B2B marketing show that the lead's interest level is at its absolute peak within the first 5 minutes of that submission. If your system waits an hour to deliver that checklist, Michael has already moved on to a meeting or a competitor's site. The first email in your lead nurturing sequence is not just a delivery mechanism. It is your first handshake. In 2026, with the sheer volume of AI-generated noise, this handshake must feel incredibly human and remarkably precise. The first step in this masterclass is the immediate delivery of the promised value. We call this the value delivery email. Its primary objective is to fulfill the request while establishing the tone of the relationship. Do not use a generic subject line like your download is ready. Instead, use something that mirrors the internal dialogue of the prospect, such as the 2026 compliance checklist for Austin fintech leaders. This level of specificity, even in the subject line, signals that you are not just a global vendor, but a partner who understands their specific niche. When Michael opens that email, he shouldn't see a wall of corporate jargon. Case studies from top-performing B2B firms suggest that plain text emails, or those that mimic a personal message from an executive, significantly outperform heavily designed HTML templates in the early stages of a nurture sequence. Why? Because Michael receives hundreds of marketing emails that look like digital flyers. When he sees a clean text-based email from the founder or the head of strategy, his brain categorizes it as a one-to-one communication rather than a one-to-many broadcast. Inside this first email, you must execute a three-part framework: the delivery, the context, and the open question. The delivery is simple. Here is the checklist you requested. Make the link prominent and easy to find. The context is where you begin the indoctrination. You must explain why you created this resource. Tell the story. For example, we spent 6 months analyzing the 2026 federal shift so our clients wouldn't have to. We found 3 specific loopholes that most firms are currently ignoring. This positions you as an expert who has already done the heavy lifting for him. The open question is the secret weapon for deliverability and engagement. At the end of the email, ask something simple but relevant. Michael, what is the biggest challenge your team is facing with the new regulations right now? Just hit reply and let me know. Historical data shows that when a new lead replies to your first email, it signals to their email service provider that your content is important. This dramatically increases the likelihood that your future emails will bypass the promotions folder and land directly in the primary inbox. By day 2, the indoctrination must deepen. This is where you move from the what to the who. Most B2B companies fail here because they start bragging about their awards or their office locations. Michael does not care about your awards. He cares about whether you can solve his specific problem in the year 2026. This second email should be a case study of transformation. Imagine a scenario where a company exactly like Michael's was facing a potential 7-figure fine due to compliance gaps. Describe the tension, the stakes, and the specific historical trends that led to their crisis. Then, walk Michael through the framework you used to solve it. Do not just say you helped them. Provide the data. Mention that by implementing a specific lead scoring and data mapping protocol, the firm reduced its risk exposure by 85% within 90 days. This is not a promise of future results. It is a historical record of what has been possible for others in his shoes. This creates a potential outcome in Michael's mind. He begins to visualize himself achieving those same results. You are shifting the conversation from a product or service to a quantifiable result. Step 3 involves setting the expectations for the journey ahead. In the third email of your indoctrination sequence, usually sent on day 4 or 5, you must tell the prospect exactly what they can expect from being on your list. We call this the roadmap email. Tell Michael that over the next few weeks, you will be sending him specific insights on 2026 industry shifts, exclusive interviews with experts, and perhaps even early access to a beta tool you are developing. This creates anticipation. It closes the loop on why he should stay subscribed. In a world where everyone is looking for the unsubscribe button, you are giving him a reason to stay. Let's look at the technical side of this architecture. In 2026, your CRM should be doing more than just sending emails at set intervals. It should be listening. If Michael opens the first email but does not click the link to the checklist, your sequence should branch. Instead of moving to the case study on day 2, he should receive a polite nudge. Michael, I noticed you haven't grabbed that checklist yet. I wanted to make sure the link worked for you. This shows a level of attention to detail that is rare in B2B transactions. Conversely, if Michael clicks the link and spends 5 minutes on your website reading about your security protocols, your sequence should accelerate. He has signaled high intent, and your nurture should reflect that by moving him toward more direct value-based offers sooner. The depth of your lead nurturing is what will separate the survivors from the casualties in the 2026 market. You must understand that Michael is not just a lead. He is a human being with a specific set of anxieties and professional goals. Your email sequence is the bridge between his current state of stress and his desired state of security. Every word, every link, and every case study you share must be a brick in that bridge. Historically, the companies that thrive are those that provide 10 times more value than they ask for. This is the 10-to-1 value ratio. For every 1 email where you ask for a meeting or a demo, you must have sent 10 emails that genuinely help the prospect without asking for anything in return. This builds a massive amount of psychological reciprocity. When you eventually do make an offer, Michael won't feel like he is being sold to. He will feel like he is finally taking the next logical step with a trusted advisor. We have only scratched the surface of the indoctrination phase. The real magic happens when we transition from building trust to agitating the problem so deeply that the prospect cannot ignore it any longer. We need to talk about how to move Michael from simply being aware of a problem to being desperate for a solution. In the next part of this masterclass, We are going to dive into the specific psychology of the problem agitation solution sequence. This is where we take the trust we have built and turn it into a high-stakes realization that every day Michael waits to solve his problem, he is losing time, money, and competitive advantage. We are going to look at the exact templates for making a prospect feel the weight of their current situation without coming across as a fearmonger. We will explore how to use 2026 market data to show the cost of inaction, and how to position your company as the only viable lifeboat in a rising tide of industry complexity. If you think your open rates are good now, wait until you see what happens when you start addressing the fears that keep your prospects awake at 3 a.m. We are moving into the heart of the sequence where the real conversions begin to take shape. To master the transition from a friendly introduction to a high-converting B2B sequence, we must deploy the Problem Agitation Solution Framework, or PAS. In the 2026 marketing landscape, this is not about being hyperbolic or aggressive. It is about being hyper-relevant. Imagine Sarah, an operations director for a mid-sized medical device manufacturer in Indianapolis. It is March 2026 and Sarah is facing a specific set of challenges: rising labor costs, increasingly complex supply chain transparency requirements, and a legacy software system that feels like it is held together by tape. She joined your list 2 days ago because she downloaded your guide on modernizing medical manufacturing. Right now, Sarah is in a state of passive awareness. She knows her system is flawed, but the pain of changing it currently feels greater than the pain of staying the same. This is the inertia that kills most B2B sales. Your job in this phase of the nurture sequence is to shift that internal calculation. Historically, humans are more motivated to avoid a loss than they are to achieve a gain. This is the core of loss aversion. In email 4 of your sequence, you must identify the problem with surgical precision. The subject line needs to stop her in her tracks. Something like, "The hidden cost of Indiana's new medical compliance standards." This isn't a sales pitch. It is a warning. Inside the email, you don't talk about your software. You talk about her world. You describe the exact symptoms of a fragmented operations system. You mention the late-night data reconciliations, the risk of a compliance audit failing due to a manual entry error, and the 3 hours her team loses every day just trying to get different platforms to talk to each other. By the end of this email, Sarah should feel like you have been sitting in her office for the last week. You have identified the problem so clearly that she feels seen. But identifying the problem is not enough. To move a B2B lead toward a decision, you must move into the agitation phase. This is email 5, sent roughly 48 hours after the problem email. Agitation is about showing the ripple effects of the problem. If Sarah doesn't fix her fragmented operations, it isn't just about lost hours. It is about the potential outcomes of that inefficiency. It is about her best warehouse manager burning out and quitting because the tools are too frustrating. It is about the company's inability to take on a new, high-value contract because they can't guarantee the turnaround time. In 2026, data from historical trends shows that B2B buyers are increasingly wary of broad claims. You must use specific, quantifiable agitation. Tell a story, a case study, of another firm that ignored these symptoms. Perhaps a competitor in the Midwest that, in 2025, faced a significant market share loss because they couldn't adapt to the rapid shift toward just-in-time delivery. You aren't scaring her. You are providing a realistic look at the market trajectory. You are explaining that in the 2026 economy, standing still is the same as moving backward. Let's look at how to structure this agitation email. You start by referencing the problem from the previous email. Then, you introduce the concept of the cost of inaction. You might write something like, "Sarah, when we spoke with manufacturers last quarter, we found that the average mid-market firm is losing approximately 12% of their annual margin to these exact manual inefficiencies. On a $50 million revenue line, that is $6 million simply evaporating. This isn't just a headache. It's a hole in the hull of the ship." Now the stakes are high. Sarah is no longer thinking about a software upgrade as a luxury. She is thinking about it as a survival necessity. This is where you introduce the solution. But here is the critical distinction. The solution is not your product. The solution is the new way of doing things. It is the category of the solution. You are selling the bridge, not the destination yet. You explain that the only way out of this cycle is a unified, automated data architecture. You describe how this shift allows for real-time visibility and frees up the leadership team to focus on strategic growth rather than putting out fires. By the time Sarah finishes reading these 3 emails, problem, agitation, and solution, her perception of her own business has changed. She has moved from a state of passive annoyance to a state of active seeking. This is where your nurture sequence becomes a powerful engine for conversion. Historical trends in high-ticket B2B sales indicate that leads who go through an agitation phase have a much higher lifetime value because they understand the deep-seated value of the fix. They aren't just buying a tool, they are buying a resolution to a critical business threat. To make this even more effective in 2026, you should be using dynamic content blocks. If Sarah's profile indicates her company is in the medical space, the agitation should focus on FDA-style compliance and patient safety. If another lead, David, is in the construction industry, the agitation should focus on project delays and material waste. This level of personalization at scale is what defines a masterclass-level nurture sequence. You are using the data Sarah gave you during the opt-in to tailor the pain points to her specific reality. We also need to consider the timing of these emails. You cannot rush the agitation. If you move too fast, you sound like a desperate salesperson. If you move too slow, Sarah might have already forgotten the pain you highlighted. A 48-hour gap between these 3 emails is usually the sweet spot found in historical case studies for maintaining tension without causing fatigue. Think about the psychological state of your prospect after the solution email. They are relieved that a solution exists, but they are also skeptical. They are wondering, is this too good to be true? Can this company actually do what they say? Does this work for someone in my specific situation? This is the natural defense mechanism of a professional buyer in 2026. They have been burned by empty promises before. This brings us to the next critical phase of our deep dive. You have built the tension, but now you have to build the authority bridge. You have to prove that your company is the only logical choice to implement the solution you just described. This is not about a features list. It is about building an unshakable foundation of proof. We are going to look at how to use social proof, third-party validation, and specialized content to remove every ounce of skepticism from Sarah's mind. In the next part, we will break down the exact mechanism of the authority sequence. We will discuss how to use 2026 specific trust signals that go beyond a simple logo cloud on a website. We are going to explore how to turn your founders and subject matter experts into celebrities in the eyes of your prospects, so that by the time you ask for the sale, the trust is so high that the price becomes a secondary concern. Get ready to learn how to weaponize your case studies and turn them into the most persuasive emails in your entire automation. We are about to cross the bridge from being a helpful educator to being the indispensable partner your prospect needs to survive the year ahead. Building the authority bridge is the point where you stop being an option and start being an essential partner. In the 2026 B2B landscape, trust is the most expensive currency. Your prospect, whether it is Sarah in Indianapolis or perhaps a new character like David, a VP of logistics for a multi-state distribution hub in Phoenix, Arizona, has been inundated with generic claims. David is skeptical by design. His career depends on making the right procurement decisions in a year where supply chain volatility is at a 3-year high. He has seen the problem email and the agitation email. He knows he has a leak in his revenue bucket. Now, his internal monologue is asking, why should I trust this specific company to plug it? This is where you deploy the authority sequence. This sequence typically spans 3 to 4 emails, and its purpose is to provide the logical scaffolding that justifies the emotional need for a solution. Historical trends in 2026 show that the traditional logo cloud, showing 20 company icons on a website, no longer carries the weight it once did. In a world of deepfakes and inflated marketing, David needs verifiable proof of concept. He needs to see that you have solved this exact problem for people with his exact level of responsibility. Let us look at email 7 in your master sequence, the expert insight. This email should not come from a generic info@companyname.com address. It should come from a human being, ideally your founder or lead engineer. If your company is in the logistics tech space, this email might be titled, A Memo to Phoenix Logistics Leaders on the 2026 Port Congestion. Inside, you provide a high-level analysis of a current market trend that David is currently battling. You aren't selling software here. You are selling your brain. You are demonstrating that you understand the macroeconomic factors affecting his specific zip code. By providing this insight for free, you are establishing yourself as a subject matter expert. You are moving from the role of a vendor to the role of a consultant. Imagine David reading this while he is stuck in a meeting about rising fuel surcharges. He sees that you have accurately predicted the shift in 2026 port labor contracts. He realizes that your company isn't just selling a tool. You are living in his world. This creates a psychological bond called expertise-driven rapport. Historical data from high-ticket B2B sales cycles indicates that prospects are 4 times more likely to engage with a sales representative if they have first consumed educational content from that person's firm. Step 2 of the authority bridge is the detailed case study of transformation. This is email 8. But we are going to do this differently than the standard PDF download. We are going to tell a narrative story. We will use a historical example of a firm, let us call them Ridgeview Distribution, that was facing a similar crisis to David's in late 2025. You describe the baseline metrics. Ridgeview was losing 4% of their cargo to misrouting, and their manual tracking was lagging by 12 hours. Then, you walk David through the implementation process. You don't just say we installed our software. You describe the obstacles. You talk about the initial resistance from their floor managers and how your team conducted on-site training to overcome it. The inclusion of friction makes the story believable. In 2026, David knows that no implementation is perfect. By showing how you handled the challenges, you are proving your operational maturity. Then you present the potential outcomes. After 6 months, Ridgeview reduced misrouting to 0.5% and achieved real-time tracking with a 3-second latency. You provide a quote from the Ridgeview COO, not about how great your software is, but about how they were able to finally take their first vacation in 3 years because the system was finally stable. This hits David on a personal level. He doesn't just want a better logistics platform, he wants his weekends back. Step 3 is the third-party validation email. This is where you bring in the heavy hitters. In 2026, B2B buyers look for validation from industry analysts, trade publications, and independent labs. If your company was featured in a 2026 Gartner report or mentioned in a supply chain management review article, this is the time to share it. But do not just link to the article. Curate it for David. Summarize the 3 key reasons the analyst cited your approach as the future of the industry. This leverages the principle of social proof, but it does so with an intellectual filter. Says, do not just take our word for it. Look at what the experts are saying about our methodology. We must also discuss the technical strategy of the authority bridge. This is where lead scoring becomes your best friend. In your CRM, you should be tracking David's engagement with these authority emails. If David clicks the link to the Ridgeview case study but does not click the link to the Gartner report, your system knows that David is more moved by peer-to-peer success stories than by analyst opinions. This should trigger a pivot. Your next email should not be more analyst data. It should be an invitation to a peer-led roundtable or a video testimonial from a manager who speaks David's language. This is how you use 2026 automation to mimic a human sales touch. Now, consider the concept of the micro-credential. This is a powerful authority builder in the 2026 B2B space. This could be an email that grants David access to a proprietary data set or a mini certification course you have created. For example, we noticed you have been following our series on 2026 logistics. Here is a private link to our Q1 Freight Velocity Index. This is data that is usually reserved for our paid clients, but we wanted you to have it as you plan your Q2 strategy. This creates a massive sense of exclusivity. David now feels like he is already inside the tent. He is getting value that his competitors in Phoenix likely do not have. The ultimate goal of the authority bridge is to reach a state of pre-sold conviction. You want David to reach a point where he says to his CEO, we need to talk to these people. They are the ones who wrote that report on the 2026 port shifts, and they are the ones who fixed the mess over at Ridgeview. When you reach this level of authority, the price of your solution becomes a secondary conversation to the value of your partnership. You have successfully navigated the transition from being a stranger in his inbox to being a trusted advisor in his boardroom. But even with all this trust, there is one final hurdle. David is a professional buyer, and professional buyers are trained to find the flaws. He has lingering objections. He is worried about the cost of migration. He is worried about the time it will take to train his staff. He is worried about what happens if the 2026 economic forecast takes a sudden downturn. If you ignore these objections, you will lose him at the 5-yard line. You have built the bridge, but now you have to clear the road of any remaining obstacles. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the objection crusher sequence. This is where we stop playing defense and start playing offense. We are going to look at the exact scripts for addressing the most common B2B hesitations before David even has a chance to voice them. We will explore the historical trends of the FAQ email, the comparison email, and the risk reversal email. We are about to move into the high-stakes phase where we handle the hard questions and prepare David for the final call to action. You will learn how to dismantle every reason for a no so that the only thing left for David to say is yes. We are heading into the closing stages of the funnel, and the intensity is about to ramp up significantly. To move a B2B prospect from the state of high-trust authority into a state of active commitment, you must address the psychological friction that occurs right before a purchase. In the professional world of 2026, every decision-maker is haunted by the fear of the bad buy. Imagine David, our VP of Logistics in Phoenix, standing in front of his executive board. He has the budget, he has the problem, and he has your solution in his hand. But as he looks at his peers, he realizes his professional reputation is on the line. If this implementation fails, or if the costs balloon unexpectedly, David is the one who will have to answer for it during the Q4 performance review. This is the moment where most B2B leads stall. They don't go to your competitor. They simply do nothing because doing nothing feels safer than taking a risk. In this fifth part of our deep dive, we are deploying the objection crusher sequence. This is a series of 3 to 4 emails designed to proactively dismantle the 4 horsemen of B2B hesitation: price, complexity, timing, and proof. Historical trends in the U.S. tech and logistics sectors during the mid-2020s show that when a company addresses these objections before the prospect even voices them, the sales cycle can potentially be shortened by as much as 30%. You are not waiting for David to ask the hard questions. You are bringing the questions to him and providing the answers in a way that makes him feel protected. The first email in this sequence, which we will call Email 10, is the elephant in the room email. The subject line should be direct and disarming. The 3 reasons Phoenix logistics firms hesitate on our platform. By being this transparent, you immediately stand out from the sea of marketing fluff. Inside the email, you address the most common friction point: the complexity of the transition. David is worried that switching to a new data architecture will cause a week of downtime that his hub cannot afford in the 2026 high-velocity market. You counter this by detailing your phased migration protocol. Do not just say it is easy. Describe the step-by-step reality. Mention how, in a recent case study involving a major distributor in the Southwest, your team utilized a parallel run strategy where the old system stayed active while the new system was populated in the background. This allowed for a zero downtime cutover on a Saturday night. By providing this level of granular detail, you are giving David the exact script he needs to use when his CEO asks, "But what if the system goes down during the Monday rush?" You are arming your internal champion with the armor he needs to fight for your solution. Email 11 focuses on the price-to-value calculation. In 2026, with inflation and shifting interest rates, every dollar is scrutinized. Instead of defending your price, you must reframe the conversation around the potential outcomes of the investment versus the historical costs of inaction. You might structure the email like this: "David, we often get asked why our implementation fee is 20% higher than the industry average. It is a fair question. Historically, companies that choose the lower-cost, generic alternatives often end up spending 3 times that difference in custom development and API patches within the first 18 months. You then provide a comparative analysis. Show a table, not of features but of long-term operational costs. Explain that your architecture is built for the 2026 regulatory environment, meaning he won't have to pay for a massive compliance update in 12 months when the next round of federal guidelines drops." This shifts David's focus from a one-time expense to a long-term capital preservation strategy. You are moving him from a procurement mindset to an investment mindset. Email 12 is the comparison email. In the 2026 B2B landscape, prospects are doing their own independent research on sites like G2 and Capterra. They already know who your competitors are. If you pretend they don't exist, you look naive. If you badmouth them, you look unprofessional. The solution is the philosophy comparison. You explain that while competitor A focuses on serving small to mid-sized retail businesses with a simple interface, your firm has built its entire philosophy around high-volume, enterprise-grade logistics where sub-second latency is the only metric that matters. This isn't about being better. It's about being the right fit for David's specific scale. You might say, if you are managing 10 trucks, competitor A is a great choice. But since you are managing a fleet of 400 across 5 states, you need an engine that won't redline under that pressure. This level of honesty actually increases your credibility. It shows David that you are more interested in a successful partnership than a quick sale. Now, let us look at the technical behavioral triggers for this sequence. In 2026, your email platform should be tracking scroll depth and link interactions. If David opens the elephant in the room email and spends 3 minutes reading the section on data security, but ignores the section on training, your system should automatically tag him with a security-conscious interest profile. The next email he receives should not be a general follow-up. It should be a deep-dive white paper on your 2026 encryption standards and SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. This is how you use automation to provide a bespoke experience. You are reacting to his unspoken anxieties in real time. Consider a second scenario involving Sarah in Indianapolis. She is worried about the human element. Her team is used to their old ways, and she fears a mutiny if she introduces a new platform. Your objection crusher sequence for Sarah would pivot to the culture and adoption email. You would share a case study of a manufacturing plant that saw a 95% employee adoption rate within 30 days because of your gamified training modules. You show her that you have solved the human problem, not just the technical one. By the end of this sequence, David and Sarah should feel a sense of psychological relief. You have looked at all the monsters under the bed, turned on the lights, and shown that they are just shadows. You have replaced their fear with a sense of prepared confidence. They no longer see your solution as a risky gamble. They see it as the most responsible choice they can make for their organization in 2026. However, even with the objections crushed, there is still the matter of the final move. We have nurtured them from strangers to educated advocates, but we haven't yet made the transition to the live sales environment. This is the most delicate part of the entire journey. If the handoff is too abrupt, it feels like a bait and switch. If it is too slow, the momentum you've built will dissipate. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to explore the sales handoff protocol. We will discuss the soft close techniques that bridge the gap between an automated email and a human discovery call. You will learn how to use low-pressure invitations that make the prospect feel like they are in the driver's seat, and how to brief your sales team using the behavioral data you've collected during the nurture phase. We are about to turn these warm leads into scheduled meetings, and the strategy for doing so is more sophisticated than you might think. We are moving into the endgame of the nurture funnel. The sales handoff protocol is the moment of truth where your automation meets human intuition. In the high-stakes B2B environment of 2026, this is not a handoff in the traditional sense. It is a relay race where the baton must be passed at full speed without a single stumble. Imagine Marcus, an IT infrastructure director for a major healthcare network in Chicago. Marcus has spent the last 3 weeks consuming your nurture sequence. He has seen the case studies, he has had his objections crushed, and he is now convinced that your data security platform is the best fit for his 2026 expansion. But Marcus is still a busy executive. He has a calendar that looks like a Tetris game on the highest difficulty level. If your final email is a generic book a call with our sales team link, you are putting the burden of effort back on him. You are asking him to do work to give you money. To avoid this, we implement the bridge offer. This is the 13th email in our master sequence, and it is designed to move Marcus from a passive reader to an active participant. In 2026, historical trends show that the phrase discovery call has become a massive deterrent. To a director like Marcus, discovery call sounds like an hour of being interrogated by a junior sales rep who knows less about his industry than he does. Instead, we use a high-value, low-friction invitation known as the operational blueprint session or the strategic roadmap audit. The subject line of this email is critical. It should reference the specific data Marcus has engaged with. For example, a customized 2026 security roadmap for Chicago health systems. Inside the email, you don't talk about a demo. You talk about a deliverable. You might say, Marcus, based on your interest in our latest white paper on edge computing security, I have put together a preliminary blueprint for how these protocols would look in a multi-site healthcare environment like yours. I would like to spend 15 minutes walking you through this specific draft. Regardless of whether we ever work together, this blueprint is yours to keep for your 2026 planning. This is a masterclass in psychological reciprocity. You are offering a bespoke piece of value before you have even had a live conversation. You are removing the fear of a high-pressure sales pitch because you have defined the call as a consultation where he walks away with a tangible asset. In the US B2B market, this approach has historically led to significantly higher show rates compared to standard demo requests. You are not asking for a favor, you are offering a service. But the bridge offer is only half of the protocol. The second half happens behind the scenes in your CRM. In 2026, your marketing automation should be generating what we call the intelligence brief. This is an internal notification sent to your sales representative. Let us call her Elena, the moment Marcus clicks the link to book that session. This brief is not just a name and an email. It is a full behavioral profile. Elena receives a summary that says, Marcus has spent a total of 45 minutes engaging with our content. He opened every email in the PAS sequence. He clicked specifically on the 2026 compliance links 3 times but ignored the pricing page. He spent 4 minutes watching the case study video on the Ridgeview implementation. When Elena hops on that 15-minute call with Marcus, she isn't starting from zero. She doesn't ask, so, tell me about your business. Instead, she opens with, Marcus, I saw you were looking into our edge computing security protocols recently. I noticed you had a particular interest in the compliance side of that shift for the upcoming year. I have tailored this blueprint to address exactly how that fits into a healthcare framework. Marcus is immediately impressed. He feels like he is talking to a peer, not a vendor. This is the power of a data-driven handoff. You are leveraging every data point collected during the nurture phase to make the human interaction feel like a natural continuation of the educational journey. Let us look at a case study of a Silicon Valley cybersecurity firm that implemented this exact protocol in late 2025. They were struggling with a high volume of leads that would go cold the moment a salesperson reached out. By switching to the strategic roadmap audit and providing their sales team with behavioral dossiers, their lead-to-meeting conversion rate jumped by 42% within 1 quarter. They found that by the time the prospect got on the phone, the primary hurdle wasn't trust, it was simply logistics. The nurture sequence had done 90% of the selling, leaving the salesperson to do 10% of the tailoring. The potential outcomes for your business when you master this transition are enormous. You stop wasting your sales team's time on cold outreach and start focusing them on high-intent consultations. You create a feedback loop where the sales team tells marketing which behavioral triggers are leading to the best calls, and marketing refines the nurture sequence to double down on those topics. This is the definition of sales and marketing alignment. However, we must also address the leads who don't book the session. What happens to Marcus if he reads the bridge offer but doesn't click the link? In a standard funnel, he might just sit there until someone remembers to call him 6 months later. In our masterclass system, this triggers the re-engagement loop. We don't just keep sending the same offer. We pivot. We might send an email that says, Marcus, I know how hectic the Q1 planning season is in Chicago. I've recorded a 5-minute video walkthrough of that security blueprint so you can review it on your own time. This is the video-first pivot of 2026. By providing a recorded version of the value, you are lowering the friction even further. You are still providing the authority and the solution, but you are doing it in a way that respects his calendar. If he watches that video, your CRM notifies Elena again, and she can reach out with a very soft touch. Glad you found the video useful, Marcus. If you want the editable version of that document, let me know. The beauty of the sales handoff protocol is that it turns the most awkward part of the B2B relationship, the transition from stranger to buyer, into a value-add experience. You are building a reputation as a company that is helpful, data literate, and respectful of a professional's time. But booking the meeting is only the beginning of the end game. Many companies make the mistake of thinking the nurturing stops the moment a calendar invite is sent. This is a fatal error. Between the moment Marcus books the call and the moment the Zoom room opens, there is a period of high risk. This is the pre-meeting no-show zone. Marcus could get a more urgent fire to put out, or he could start having second thoughts about whether this call is worth his time. To ensure he shows up and he shows up ready to buy, we have to implement the pre-meeting nurture. This is a specialized short burst sequence that keeps the excitement high and the value clear in the days leading up to the live interaction. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to break down the exact 3 email sequence you must send after a meeting is booked but before it happens. We will explore how to use social proof and homework to make your prospect arrive at the meeting with their credit card, essentially already on the table. We are going to look at the 2026 historical data on no-show prevention and how to make your meeting the most anticipated event on your prospect's calendar. The funnel isn't finished until the contract is signed, and we are about to ensure that every meeting you book turns into a legitimate sales opportunity. The moment Marcus clicks the confirm button on Elena's calendar, a countdown begins. In the high-stakes 2026 B2B environment, a booked meeting is not a guaranteed sale. It is a fragile commitment that can evaporate under the slightest pressure of a shifting schedule. Historical trends in the United States professional sectors indicate that as many as 35% of B2B discovery calls are rescheduled or simply abandoned because of last-minute skepticism or competing priorities. This is where the pre-meeting nurture sequence becomes your insurance policy. You typically have a window of 3 to 5 days between the booking and the live interaction. If you stay silent during this time, you are allowing the cold feet of buyer's remorse to set in. You are leaving Marcus alone with his doubts. Email 14 in our masterclass architecture is the confirmation plus. This goes out immediately after the booking. While most companies rely on a generic automated calendar invite that says "see you then," you are going to send a personal note from Elena. The subject line should be specific. Confirmed, your 2026 security roadmap session for Chicago Health. Inside the email, Elena doesn't just confirm the time. She adds a layer of value. She might say, "Marcus, I am looking forward to our session on Thursday. To make sure we get the absolute most out of our 15 minutes, I have attached a preliminary data mapping worksheet. If you have 3 minutes to jot down your current node count and average latency, I can have a custom comparison ready for our call." This is the implementation of pre-meeting homework. In the psychology of 2026 business transactions, investment leads to commitment. If Marcus spends even 90 seconds filling out that worksheet, he has mentally moved from being a casual observer to an active participant in a project. He is now much less likely to cancel because he has already invested effort. He wants to see the result of that effort. Case studies from top-tier consulting firms in 2026 show that prospects who complete a small pre-call task have a 92% show rate compared to the 60% industry average. You are not just preparing him for a call, you are diagnosing a professional wound that he now feels an urgent need to heal. The second email in this mini sequence, email 15, is sent exactly 24 hours before the call. This is the peer validation touch. This isn't just any case study. It is a hyper-relevant success story that mirrors Marcus's exact situation. Since Marcus is an IT director in Chicago, Elena sends him a short, 2-minute video testimonial from an IT director at a hospital in Naperville, Illinois. The subject line is, "How Naperville Health Handled the 2026 Compliance Shift." Inside, the Naperville director talks about how the initial meeting with your team was the turning point for their infrastructure. This email serves a dual purpose. First, it reassures Marcus that he is not the first person to take this step. Second, it utilizes local and industry relevance to build an unshakable level of trust. Marcus sees a peer, someone who speaks his language and shares his daily stresses, vouching for the very process he is about to start. This effectively kills any remaining hesitation about whether this call is worth his time. You are using the 2026 trend of peer-to-peer verification to move the needle from interest to conviction. On the morning of the meeting, we send email 16. The agenda and prep. This is the professional finishing touch. Marcus wakes up to an email that outlines exactly what will happen during the call. It lists 3 concise bullet points. First, a quick review of the data mapping worksheet he filled out. Second, a look at the 3 specific security gaps identified for his Chicago network based on that data. And third, a discussion on the potential outcomes of the 2026 federal regulatory update on his current storage. By providing a clear agenda, you are reducing Marcus's cognitive load. He doesn't have to wonder if he needs to prepare or what he will be asked. You have shown him that you are organized, you are respectful of his time, and you have a plan. This email also includes a very important line. If something urgent has come up, here is a link to my calendar to move our time, but I have already blocked off the next 2 hours to finalize your custom blueprint. This subtle nudge emphasizes that Elena has already done work for him, making a last-minute cancellation feel like a breach of social etiquette. In 2026, being the person who makes a prospect's job easier is the fastest way to a signed contract. Let us look at the historical data behind this. In a 2026 study of B2B SaaS sales in the United States, companies that utilized this 3-part pre-meeting sequence saw a 25% increase in closed-won deals. This happens because the meeting doesn't start with awkward small talk or a sales pitch. It starts with momentum. Marcus enters the Zoom room already knowing Elena, already trusting the process, and already having seen the value you provide. The discovery call is no longer a discovery. It is a confirmation of fit, but we must go deeper. In 2026, the rise of virtual presence exhaustion means that every meeting is viewed as a significant cost of energy. The pre-meeting nurture is your way of proving that the return on that energy investment will be high. Imagine if the worksheet Elena sends isn't just a list of questions, but an interactive 2026 compliance calculator. Marcus enters his current employee count and his data storage volume, and the tool immediately highlights his potential exposure to new federal fines. This creates a high-stakes realization. When he brings that data to the call, He is coming with a sense of urgency that no salesperson could ever manufacture through cold calling. We must also prepare for the outliers. What if, despite all your efforts, Marcus misses the call? Most companies send one email saying sorry we missed each other and then let the lead rot in the CRM. In our masterclass system, this triggers the no-show recovery sequence. This is a 3-part recovery that uses the video walkthrough strategy. Elena records a 5-minute video saying, "Marcus, I'm sorry we couldn't connect today, but I didn't want you to wait on these results. I've recorded a quick walkthrough of the security blueprint I prepared for you. This keeps the deal alive without being annoying." It shows that your commitment to his success is not dependent on a scheduled time slot. Historical trends suggest that this level of persistence, when wrapped in genuine value, can recover up to 40% of missed meetings and turn them into closed deals within the same month. The funnel is now moving at its highest velocity. Marcus is sold. He has had the call, he has seen the blueprint, and he wants to move forward. But here is the final hurdle of the B2B world. Marcus is not the only person who has to say yes. In most 2026 B2B transactions, there are between 6 and 10 stakeholders involved in a final purchase. Marcus might be convinced, but his CFO is looking at the budget, his CEO is looking at the long-term vision, and his head of compliance is looking for a reason to say no. If your nurture sequence only talks to Marcus, you are leaving the most important part of the deal to chance. You are forcing Marcus to be your salesperson, and he might not be very good at it. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to explore the stakeholder indoctrination sequence. We will look at how to create a decision-maker's kit that Marcus can forward to his board. A kit that addresses the specific concerns of every person in that room. We are going to learn how to write the CFO-ready business case and the CEO-ready vision statement so that your solution becomes the only logical choice for the entire enterprise. We are moving from nurturing one person to nurturing an entire organization, and the strategy for doing so is the key to closing the biggest deals of your career. The consensus gap is the place where high-ticket B2B deals go to die. In the professional landscape of 2026, the individual lead you have been nurturing, such as Marcus in Chicago, is rarely the sole decision-maker. Historical trends across the United States indicate that for any enterprise-level purchase exceeding $100,000, there are typically between 6 and 10 stakeholders involved in the final sign-off. While Marcus is your internal champion and is fully convinced of your value, he now faces the daunting task of selling your solution to his peers. He has to walk into a boardroom and defend this investment to Linda, the Chief Financial Officer, and Robert, the Chief Executive Officer. If you leave Marcus to do this alone, you are essentially gambling your entire sales cycle on his ability to pitch your product as well as you do. Most internal champions are not trained salespeople. They are technical or operational leaders. They might understand the data architecture, but they might struggle to articulate the long-term capital preservation to a CFO or the competitive market positioning to a CEO. To solve this, your nurture sequence must transition into the stakeholder indoctrination phase. This is where you stop talking only to Marcus and start providing the ammunition he needs to win over the rest of the committee. Email 17 in our masterclass is the Internal Champion Toolkit. This email is sent to Marcus within 24 hours of a successful discovery call. The subject line is strategically designed to be forwarded. Resources for the Chicago Health 2026 Infrastructure Review. Inside, Elena does not just thank Marcus for his time. She provides a curated set of documents specifically labeled for different roles. This includes a 1-page executive summary for the CEO, a financial impact model for the CFO, and a technical integration brief for the CTO. Let us look at the potential outcomes of providing a CFO-ready financial model. In 2026, Linda, the CFO, is not interested in the user interface or the cloud latency. She is interested in the total cost of ownership and the internal rate of return. Elena provides Marcus with a pre-filled spreadsheet where he can input Chicago Health-specific numbers. This model uses historical data from similar healthcare networks to show how a reduction in data breaches and an increase in operational uptime can lead to a quantifiable impact on the bottom line over a 36-month period. By giving Marcus this tool, you have transformed him from someone asking for money into someone presenting a business case for profit protection. Next, we address the CEO perspective. Robert, the CEO, is focused on the year 2026 and beyond. He wants to know if this solution will help Chicago Health scale into new markets, or if it will become a legacy bottleneck in 2 years. Elena includes a vision brief that highlights how your platform's modular design allows for rapid expansion. It features a case study of a major healthcare provider in Dallas that utilized this exact infrastructure to onboard 15 new clinics in 6 months without increasing their IT headcount. This speaks Robert's language. It isn't about the software. It is about the speed of execution and the ability to outpace competitors. The technical integration brief is for the stakeholders Marcus might report to, like a CTO. This document dives deep into the API documentation, the 2026 security protocols, and the SOC2 compliance certifications. It answers the hard technical questions before they are even asked. Historically, B2B deals are often stalled by a mid-level manager who is worried about how a new tool will break existing workflows. By providing a step-by-step migration map, you remove that fear of technical debt. In 2026, the technical execution of this stage involves a strategy called ghost nurturing. When Marcus forwards Elena's email to Linda or Robert, your tracking system should be sophisticated enough to recognize that the content is being viewed by a new IP address. In many advanced CRM setups, this can trigger a secondary, highly targeted LinkedIn ad campaign directed specifically at the executive leadership of Chicago Health. While Linda is reviewing the financial model, she starts seeing educational content on her LinkedIn feed about the 2026 shifts in healthcare data liability. This creates a multi-channel echo chamber where your brand appears to be the industry standard. Step by step, you are building consensus without ever having to step into their boardroom. You are making it easy for them to say yes because you have already answered the specific objections of every person at the table. Imagine the scene. Linda mentions a concern about the implementation cost during a budget meeting. Marcus immediately pulls up the financial impact model you provided and shows her the projected ROI, based on the 2025 pilot program data. The objection is neutralized in seconds. Another critical element of the stakeholder indoctrination phase is the peer-to-peer invitation. In email 18, Elena might suggest, "Marcus, I know Robert is focused on the upcoming 2026 regional expansion. Our CEO recently did a private briefing for a group of healthcare executives on that exact topic. Would Robert be interested in receiving a recording of that session?" This is a high-status move. You are offering CEO to CEO value. It positions your company not as a vendor to be managed, but as a peer organization that understands the executive-level challenges of the year 2026. Historical trends show that when the selling process becomes a collaborative project, the closing rate increases by over 50%. You are moving away from the us versus them dynamic of a traditional sale and into a partnership dynamic. You are providing the blueprint, the data, and the vision. Marcus feels supported and confident. Linda feels the risk is mitigated. Robert feels the growth is enabled. We must also consider the role of social proof during this multi-person nurture. In email 19, you send a case study compendium. This is not just one story. It is a collection of 3 short, punchy stories, each tailored to a different stakeholder's success. One story is about an IT director who got promoted after a successful rollout. Another is about a CFO who successfully lowered the company's cyber insurance premiums by 40% using your platform's reporting tools. This reinforces the idea that your solution provides a win for everyone involved. As we move deeper into this masterclass, we have to recognize that even with the board on your side, there is one final, often overlooked stage of the nurture process. Many companies stop nurturing once the contract is signed. This is a massive mistake that leads to high churn and missed expansion opportunities. In 2026, the sale is just the beginning of the relationship. To truly maximize the lifetime value of a B2B client, you must master the post-signature indoctrination. But before we get there, we need to talk about the final push for the signature itself. There is a specific psychological window between the board's approval and the actual signing of the contract where the deal is most vulnerable to a sudden change in market conditions or a last-minute competitive bid. We call this the red line nurture. In the next part of this series, we are going to explore the exact sequence you use to maintain momentum during the legal and procurement review. We will look at how to handle the 2026 procurement landscape, the role of urgency without pressure, and how to ensure that the excitement you have built doesn't die in the legal department. We are entering the final stage of the acquisition funnel, where the stakes are at their highest and the margin for error is 0. The red line period is the most dangerous silence in a B2B transaction. In the high-stakes environment of 2026, when Marcus in Chicago has finally secured the verbal yes from Robert and the financial blessing from Linda, the deal enters the cold, sterile hallway of the legal and procurement departments. This is where momentum goes to die. Historical trends in the U.S. enterprise sector show that as many as 20% of mid to large-scale contracts are significantly delayed or even abandoned during the final contract review because of a phenomenon known as post-decision dissonance. This is the moment when the adrenaline of the solution fades and the cold reality of risk takes over. If your email nurture sequence stops the moment you send the contract, you are leaving the most vulnerable part of the journey unprotected. In this 9th part of our masterclass, we are deploying the redline nurture. This is a sequence of 3 specialized emails designed to maintain the psychological high while navigating the bureaucratic low. You must understand that while Marcus is your champion, he is no longer the primary driver of the timeline. The timeline is now in the hands of a legal counsel or a procurement officer who has zero emotional connection to your brand and is paid specifically to find reasons to say no. Your goal here is to provide Marcus with the tools to push the paperwork through while simultaneously nurturing the executive board to prevent them from getting distracted by a late-arriving competitor bid. Email 20 in our sequence is the implementation pre-flight email. This is sent the moment the contract is delivered to the legal department. The subject line should be action-oriented. Preparing for the Chicago Health 2026 onboarding phase. Inside, you are shifting the narrative from a purchase to a partnership. You provide Marcus with an implementation roadmap, a granular week-by-week schedule of what happens the moment the signature is finalized. This roadmap is a psychological anchor. It makes the future reality feel tangible. You aren't just waiting for a signature. You are already moving toward the results. Imagine Linda, the CFO, seeing this roadmap. She sees that you have allocated specific resources for data migration and employee training starting on day 1. This alleviates her fear that the implementation will be a slow, expensive drain on her 2026 budget. You are showing her that you are as organized as she is. Step by step, you list the internal team members Marcus will need to designate as project leads. By asking for these names now, you are getting Marcus to commit his internal resources to the project before it is even official. This is a subtle but powerful form of social commitment that has historically reduced contract signing times by an average of 14 days in complex B2B cycles. Email 21 is the legal ease of use email. This is a specialized message designed for the person who is actually reviewing the red lines. In 2026, legal review is heavily focused on data sovereignty and the latest federal privacy mandates. You send Marcus a document titled the 2026 Data Compliance Fast Track. This document is written specifically for a lawyer. It highlights the exact clauses in your contract that address the new regulations and provides the pre-approved language your firm uses for indemnity and liability. By providing this, you are saving the legal department hours of research. You are making it easy for them to say yes, because you have already done the heavy lifting of aligning your contract with the current year's regulatory environment. Historically, case studies of tech firms that provide a legal cheat sheet show a 40% reduction in back-and-forth negotiations. You are positioning yourself as the most compliant and easy-to-work-with vendor in their 2026 stack. While the paperwork is moving, you must also defend against the competitor. In the competitive landscape of 2026, your rivals are likely using intent data to see that your prospect is in a buying cycle. They may attempt a last-minute Hail Mary bid with a lower price point or a flashier feature. To counter this, you send email 22, the long-term vision update. This email is sent to Robert, the CEO, and Linda, the CFO, Sanji Marcus. This is not a sales pitch. It is a piece of high-level thought leadership. For example, Robert, as we finalize the paperwork for our partnership, I wanted to share our internal 2027 R&D roadmap. We are currently developing a predictive AI module that will integrate directly with your new data architecture. And because you are joining us in 2026, you will have first priority access to the beta program. This reinforces Robert's decision to choose you. He isn't just buying a tool for today. He is securing a strategic advantage for next year. It makes any late competitor bid look short-sighted by comparison. Let us look at a real-world scenario from early 2026. A logistics firm in New Jersey was about to sign a multi-million-dollar contract with a national retailer. At the last minute, a competitor offered a 20% discount on the implementation fee. The retailer's procurement team was ready to switch. However, the original firm had already started the redline nurture. They had already conducted a preliminary security audit and had sent over a detailed training schedule for the retailer's regional managers. The regional managers, having already mentally committed to the training plan, pushed back against the switch. They didn't want to start the whole process over with a new vendor just to save 20%. The deal was saved not by price, but by the psychological momentum built during the legal review period. This phase of the nurture is about closing the exit ramps. You are making the cost of switching back to a state of indecision higher than the cost of moving forward. You are surrounding the prospect with value, organization, and a clear vision of the future. But the work is not yet finished. There is one final critical window of time: the gap between the signature and the actual start of the project. This is where buyer's remorse is at its highest. The money has been committed, the risk has been taken, and now there is a period of silence before the results start to show. In the B2B world of 2026, the companies that thrive are the ones that turn a new customer into a raving fan before the software is even installed. This requires a transition into the post-signature indoctrination. This is where you validate their choice and set the stage for long-term expansion and referrals. You have to move from being the person who sold them the solution to the person who is going to make them look like a hero for buying it. In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the success celebration and the expansion loop. We will explore the exact email templates for welcoming a new client, the psychology of the day one gift, and how to use early-stage data to set up the first upsell 6 months down the line. We are going to finish this series by showing you how to turn your nurture sequence into a perpetual revenue machine that doesn't just close deals, but creates a lifetime of B2B value. We are heading into the final stretch, where we turn a one-time transaction into a generational business partnership. Prepare to see the strategy that ensures your customers never even look at a competitor again. The signature is dry, the ink is set, and the funds have been allocated, but the nurturing process is far from over. In the high-stakes B2B environment of 2026, the period immediately following a sale is the most critical window for securing long-term retention and expansion revenue. This is the stage where you move from being a vendor to becoming an ingrained part of your client's operational DNA. Historically, the cost of acquiring a new customer is 5 to 7 times higher than retaining an existing one. Yet, many companies focus all their email marketing energy on the hunt and none on the harvest. In this final part of our masterclass, we are deploying the post-signature indoctrination and the expansion loop. This is the strategy that ensures Marcus in Chicago, Linda the CFO, and Robert the CEO never experience a single moment of buyer's remorse, and instead become your most powerful lead generation engine through advocacy and referrals. The first step in this phase is the welcome and validation sequence. Email 23 is the high-status welcome. It should arrive in Marcus's inbox within 60 minutes of the contract being finalized. The subject line should move away from the transaction and toward the partnership. Official. The 2026 Chicago Health Infrastructure Partnership is live. Inside, the tone shifts. You are no longer selling a solution. You are welcoming him into an exclusive community of high performers. You include a short, high-production video from your CEO, personally thanking Robert and Marcus for their trust. This isn't just about politeness. It is about reinforcing the professional status of the decision-makers. You mentioned that they have joined a select group of organizations that are leading the charge in 2026 compliance and efficiency. Immediately following this, we trigger the onboarding nurture. This is a series of 4 to 6 emails sent over the first 30 days, designed to eliminate any friction in the implementation process. Email 24 is the Meet Your Success Team email. It introduces the human beings who will be responsible for Marcus's outcomes. It includes their LinkedIn profiles and a link to book a one-to-one kickoff call. Historical data in the SaaS and logistics sectors during the mid-2020s shows that clients who have a face-to-face kickoff within the first 7 days are 60% more likely to renew their contracts 12 months later. You are humanizing the technology and providing a safety net for Marcus's team. As the implementation begins, your email sequence should act as a proactive support system. Email 25 provides the quick win guide. You identify the one feature or protocol that provides the most immediate, visible benefit to the client. For Marcus, this might be the 2026 real-time latency dashboard. You walk him through how to set it up in under 5 minutes. By delivering an immediate result, you are providing Marcus with the data he needs to show Robert and Linda that the investment is already paying off. You are giving him the wins he needs to build his own internal political capital. Email 26 is the Hero Maker report. This is sent at the 30-day mark. It is a templated, high-level summary of the progress made during the first month. It highlights the security gaps closed, the manual hours saved, and the potential outcomes for the rest of the year. The genius of this email is that it is designed to be forwarded. You include a line at the top. Marcus, here is a summary of our first 30 days together. This is a perfect snapshot to share with Linda and Robert to keep them updated on the ROI of the infrastructure shift. You are doing the reporting work for Marcus, making him look like a visionary leader to his executive board. Now we move into the expansion loop. In the 2026 B2B model, your primary revenue growth should come from upselling and cross-selling within your existing base. At the 90-day mark, your nurture sequence should pivot based on the usage data collected during onboarding. We call this the value gap email. If Marcus's team is using the core security modules but hasn't yet activated the predictive AI module, your system triggers email 27. The subject line is, Scaling the Chicago Health Network, a look at 2027 predictive requirements. You use the historical trends of their own data to show them a gap they didn't know they had. You might say, Marcus, we noticed that while your latency has dropped by 40%, your node growth suggests you will hit capacity by Q3 of next year. Here is a case study of how a similar network used our scaling module to handle that exact transition seamlessly. This is not a cold pitch. It is a logical progression based on the partnership you have built. You are solving a future problem before it becomes a crisis. Case studies from top-tier B2B firms show that these data-driven expansion emails have a 40% higher conversion rate than traditional outbound sales because the trust is already established. You aren't asking for more money. You are offering a way to protect the investment they have already made. The final stage of the masterclass is the advocacy and referral engine. Once Marcus has hit a major milestone, let's say 6 months of zero downtime, you send email 28, the peer impact invitation. You ask Marcus if he would be willing to be featured in a short case study or a private industry roundtable. In 2026, high-level directors like Marcus value industry recognition. By offering to highlight his success, you are providing him with personal brand growth. When Marcus agrees, he is not just a customer anymore. He is a brand advocate. This leads to the ultimate lead nurturing move, the warm introduction request. Email 29 is the referral bridge. You might say, Marcus, we've loved working with the team in Chicago. As we plan our 2027 expansion into the Midwest healthcare market, is there one other director you know who is currently struggling with these same compliance shifts? We'd love to offer them a complimentary audit as a professional courtesy from you. This creates a viral loop. The leads generated from your existing happy clients are the highest quality leads you will ever receive. They enter your nurture funnel at the authority bridge phase, skipping the cold indoctrination entirely because they already have the social proof from Marcus. The potential outcomes of this 10-part masterclass system are a total transformation of your B2B growth engine. You have moved from a fragmented, manual process to a sophisticated, automated, and hyper-personalized ecosystem. You have learned how to capture attention, build deep psychological trust, agitate the core problems, crush every objection, and maintain momentum through the complex legal and post-sale phases. You are now armed with a system that treats every prospect like a human being and every transaction like a partnership. As we conclude this deep dive, remember that the technology of 2026 is only as good as the strategy behind it. Your CRM and your email tools are just the engine, the copy, the empathy, and the timing are the fuel. You now have the blueprint to build a moat around your business that no competitor can cross. You have the tools to turn a simple lead into a lifetime advocate. But there is one more layer to this architecture that we haven't touched on yet. While email is the backbone, the modern B2B buyer is also living in the world of social algorithms and dark social channels where conversations happen behind closed doors. In our next deep dive series, we are going to explore the omni-channel integration strategy. We will look at how to sync your email nurture with LinkedIn automation, private Slack communities, and AI-driven retargeting to create a 360-degree presence that makes your brand feel omnipresent. You will learn how to show up exactly where your prospect is, exactly when they need you, without ever crossing the line into being intrusive. The journey to B2B dominance is just beginning, and the next level of the game is about to get even more intense. Get your data ready, refine your scripts, and prepare to scale your impact across the entire digital landscape.